At this point, for this video, I'm going to be talking about the concept of something that I truly revile, um, partisanship, and faulty and flawed separations that really are a bunch of labels that perhaps at one point they did have some real meaning, they did have some real differences. To some degree they still do, but they've gotten flipped around and mushed about, and in essence what they've become for the most part is a really loud and large set of flawed stereotypes and far-flung insults that seem like they're polite, at least on the surface, but they're really not. Words like socialist, libertarian, progressive, Democrat, Republican, Tea Party, I don't know actually any members of the Tea Party in terms of activists, but even them I kind of understood their point, to some degree. The critical thing though here is the fact that not only do they really at this point, none of them as individual entities do they do a heck of a lot, but the biggest ones, which I know that a lot of people still think that they're different, but I actually I don't think they're different at all. I think that they're legally separate, but to me, the Republican and Democratic parties, in terms of separation, it's like a couple that lives together in the same building. Legally, they're two different apartments, but they're right next door to one another, and the mother doesn't put all the dad's name down on all the birth certificates, but the dad is the guy that lives in the technically apartment next door. There's a bunch of separations there in theory, but in reality it's husband, wife, they're married, they're living together, they're raising a family. Only in this case it's Republican, Democrat, and they've gotten an oligarchy. With a couple of little minor things. I mean, yes, the Libertarians are there, yes, the Green Party is there, yes, there's a bunch of other smaller parties, but in terms of traction, especially on the national stage, and in the Senate and independents, I consider myself a hearty independent, and that's kind of the only close to me label that I'll accept, because it's purposefully ambiguous. And that's why, to me, this construct, this, to some degree, I guess you'd call it a new political party, Our Voice Party, is so critical to me. I did technically switch my party affiliation to Green, but I agree with a whole lot of what the Libertarians say. But at the same time, I know that in this area that ain't going to get me any traction, but I really, again, I don't see the difference in the overall goals of people that are in the Libertarian Party versus people that are in the Green Party. And I'd love to see, in terms of the separations, and there are some separations between at least those two, I'll grant you that, but neither of them have gotten any traction, and so to me it's still the married family that, you know, the couple that refuse to admit legally that they're family. And therefore, I guess maybe in terms of that analogy, it's one kid of each gender lives with the parent in the same two technically different apartments, but it's one home. And kids might definitely do something one day, or they might not. So we really need to push this concept of getting rid of these faulty labels, stop using these terms as insults, and actually say to people point blank, what are you working on, especially in activist circles, to unify us. We have to figure out, and we have to ask people, okay, what is the bill? What policy do you want to support with this election? What lifestyle practices do you prefer? Will you impose any of your lifestyle preferences on anyone else? Pretty much the answer to 90% of that, in terms of all kinds of scenarios, is nope, I won't. And that's one of the reasons why I will indeed be going through detailed-wise all of the positions listed in the Arvories Party mission and vision, and basically giving different perspectives and saying, in essence, how it could be reached and how it could be gotten to by all of the different perspectives such as they exist in terms of what, again, I consider, at least in philosophically, I do consider there to be differences in some of a fair amount of what libertarian versus green is, so I'm going to be discussing the concept of various ways to get at the same goal, and to me that's kind of the way that we can actually get something done, is if we say, okay, we both agree that this is the ultimate goal. So again, with the only part of the platform that there isn't this with is the thing that will enable everything else to occur, which is the construct of change the voting method from pass opposed to the option that is, and let me look this up to actually get it correctly stated, that is the what is known as single transferable voting method. Again, there, aside from that, every single thing here, there's many different ways to get there, and that's one of the reasons that I'm really going to be pushing this harder